Welcome to another episode of Kicking It in the Second Half. This is episode number 3, and today we're going to talk about reviews of the NBA All-Star Game, any takeaways from that, potential trades and buyouts in the NBA market, and first half performances and potential breakouts for the second half. I'm D, and I'm back with my favorite host, Groot, and Hugh. Say what's up, Hugh.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight?
Yeah, I think everybody's doing pretty good. I'm glad you were able to make it back.
Happy
Groot
to
really
be
missed
here.
you. He's got a big smile on his face tonight for you.
I'm happy to be back with Groot tonight.
Good. So yeah, our first topic is, the All-Star event, the whole day full of all the events wrapped in one. Was there any particular event that you favored most? Or did you like the whole collection of how they did it this year? Would you like to see them attempt this again next year or go back to normal?
No, actually, I think that I actually really enjoyed how they had it all one day this year. I'm a fan of that. I just like when it's all kind of same day like that. I think it kind of draws interest. Um, but to my favorite, I mean, would probably just be the All-Star game. In general, I thought it was a great game this year.
Yeah, I definitely thought the All-Star game was, obviously the big main event, and we saw some cool things happening in the other events, but nothing too surprising from the other events outside of maybe the potential winners. I had a few predictions on the events, and didn't quite go my way, but still, it was a good performance by everybody. Somebody's definitely going to outperform another competitor in any of those events, and I don't think we were too disappointed in a situation where they were still able to have this event this year. So big ups to the NBA for pulling this off, and props to the players for actually participating, even though a lot of them, didn't really want to do it at first because of COVID or getting back to their families, which is very understandable.
Yeah, let me ask you something. Speaking of your predictions, I believe in episode 2 it was, 2 part 1, if you want to call it that. You had a very, very bold prediction that between Steph Curry and Damian Lillard, there would be 30 combined made three-pointers. And I know that they did not reach 30. I think it was 18 maybe or something, somewhere around there. But I just wanted to know your take because they were pulling up from half court. They were shooting some deep ones. Even LeBron said after the game that he was hyping them up, telling them to shoot deeper and deeper. So I just, want your take on their little 3-point contest, you could call it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of mention that when we did talk about that episode. I did want to go bold. Obviously, they could have taken more shots, but sharing the ball as part of the All-Star game, you want everybody there to be appreciated for being an All-Star and get a chance of being on the court to score. But yeah, I mean, they still put on that performance of that competition of it's LeBron's team against LeBron's team. When you see Steph shoot a three and then kind of turn around, and then Damian Lillard, which was his teammate on Team LeBron this year, was kind of looking at him and like in awe, like, oh, okay, man, you just did that, didn't you? And you looked right at me. So I thought that was very cool. But also, yeah, just pulling up from half court. We saw videos of Dame doing that before the season started, just practicing his range. And, obviously, what better place to put a performance and to show your range than the All-Star game, especially when your team was up like there were, I think, in quarters 1 and 3 for sure. But obviously, you could definitely see that they were challenging each other when, Steph was doing, his shimmy celebration with his threes, and then Dame decides to pull up before half court. And then when he finally makes one, and then, Steph has to turn around, take one dribble past half court and basically a foot into it. And he pulls up and makes it just a great performance. And that's what part of what I wanted to see from the All-Star game. So yeah, even though they didn't do 30, maybe some other time we'll see them do 30. I mean, everybody did shoot a bunch of threes, but they were definitely 2 performers that stood out for me outside of Giannis going 3 for 3 from the 3-point line. So
What another question I had for you, did you, I guess, notice anything or get any takeaways from All-Star weekend that maybe wasn't noticed by everybody, maybe something you just
yeah,
happened to catch?
one of the things that I did note was the defense that Chris Paul was playing on James Harden. You know, they used to be teammates back in Houston a few seasons ago, and I guess it just didn't end on good terms. But it was interesting to like, see what happens on the court when one is guarding the other. But in particular, Chris Paul on Harden, he was just trying to swipe the ball from him, get it out of his hands. I don't know if it's because, you know, of what they did beforehand as far as their team chemistry, or also because of James Harden being on the Nets now. So it's kind of like, you know, a big disgrace. Like, you couldn't win anything with me, or you didn't want to stay with me longer, but now you're on this side. So when I get the opportunity, you know, I know what you're going to do and I can expose you, even though this is an all-star game and it's not a whole lot of defense. I just thought that was an interesting take of mentality per se, where, like I said, you see the side of Steph and Dame having fun in a way where it's a friendly competition, but then you see a real personal competition where Chris Paul was not really toying around with James Harden. He was pretty much taking him serious and trying to keep the ball out of his hands, keep him agitated, and keep him from making his shots, or doing what he wanted to do with the ball like he normally does. And then also one of the other things, obviously his teammate Kyrie, I noticed that he was doing a lot of the scoring load at the very beginning. He looked like he was taking the game pretty serious, and maybe that was just because he was trying to fill in, you know, in the shoes of Kevin Durant as far as being the first one picked on the team by him during that player draft for the All-Star game. And obviously they were both teammates. I'm sure they wanted to beat LeBron as well. You know, LeBron and Kyrie's history as far as the public comments that Kyrie has made over the last couple years about LeBron in particular, which was also interesting to see what would happen with that on the court. I think LeBron just kind of wanted to participate because the fans voted him in, but, you know, obviously not put a lot of wear and tear on his body, especially with Anthony Davis sitting out probably some more time, and, you know, before he can get back on the court, LeBron needs to definitely keep carrying as much of the load as he can. And one of the other things from one of the other contests was the dunk contest. So I'm not sure if you saw that or not, but I think everybody that watches it and keeps up with it, they know that Obi Toppin won. But speaking of Obi Toppin, whose man is this? Go back and watch the final dunk. He brought out his dad and Julius Randle. His dad looks like Lou Williams. I really thought he had brought out Lou Williams. So I was like, oh man, he kind of grew a little bit, or he just looks taller in this dynamic of the camera, but it was actually his father. He had a mask on, but just, you know, from the quick camera swipe that they showed at first, that's who I thought that was. And but yeah, shout out to Obi Toppin and all the dunk participants this year from the contest. I do feel like Cassius Stanley, not trying to be biased because he went to Duke, but I feel like he got cheated on his first dunk. Like I had said in a previous recording, I had said that he would probably be one of those players, or the player in the dunk contest, that when you see him dunk, he's going to make it look easy because he just gets up so high and it almost looks like he's getting his chest up to the rim. But I think it was just a big disappointment that he didn't get judged a higher score for his first dunk attempt. And it was sad to see him not really be able to make anything out of his second dunk after he had missed a couple of attempts on what he originally had planned. So he did not make it to the final round. But yeah, outside of that, you know, I couldn't be disappointed completely with how they did it. And it was interesting to see them incorporate the dunk contest in the middle of the All-Star game like that, and had the All-Stars out there to watch. And Julius Randle obviously participate with that dunk by Obi Toppin. You know, was there anybody that stood out for you, any particular performer or performance for the night throughout the whole day?
I mean, I'll probably talk specifically from the All-Star game here, but I mean, just Steph Curry doing Steph Curry things, Dame time. You know, like you touched on earlier, just seeing them, you know, throw it up at half court, back and forth, seeing, you know, LeBron, all the other teammates loving it. That was just cool to see. I will say that, you know, I know the defense wasn't the greatest at times, but Giannis, 16 for 16, still impressive, you know, in my opinion. And, you know, huge shout out to him. You know, that's I think he had a heck of a performance. I think he was deserving of the MVP award. I know there's a couple other people you can probably give it to. I don't know if your opinion on that is the same. If you think, do you think Giannis deserve it, or do you think
I
you
mean,
see anybody
definitely
else you would give
anytime
it to?
you could shoot 100% like that, and he did take several threes, so it wasn't just all dunks. But yeah, he put up a decent chunk of points. I thought it was between definitely him and then the other two guys we mentioned, in Steph Curry and Damian Lillard. So at first, the way it was going until the game was complete, I thought maybe Steph and Dame would get co-honors for the MVP, kind of like Shaq and Kobe. But
Oh,
like I said, with Giannis having that complete game of 100% from the field, why not? And plus, he dedicated the trophy to his son, so that was special for him. But
yeah.
yeah, so definitely a great takeaway from the All Star game for me, and all the events. I really enjoyed it. But you know, on to newer subject, or more current subject, since the All Star game happened yesterday. What's currently happening now is we saw Blake Griffin get bought out, and then he decided to join the Nets, and I'm sure we'll discuss some more of that in our next podcast and more details. But on to our next topic of trades and buyouts. Is there any particular players out there you want to mention, as far as name dropping, or any news you've seen of other players in this situation that, their team wants to kind of like move on from them? More so a type of veteran on the team that can serve a bigger role or bigger purpose on a more contending team.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So, yeah, as the deadline approaches, there's a bunch of trade rumors swirling, and I got some to highlight on. Uh, I guess one of the big ones, the Warriors are interested in a couple guys. From what I've seen, they've contacted Houston about Victor Oladipo, and from the reports that I read, that Houston is open and willing to trade Oladipo before the deadline. So that is something to keep an eye on there. The Warriors are also interested in Otto Porter Jr. I think that could be a good pickup. Just one thing with him is his health. It's been a big issue the last couple seasons, so that's something to keep an eye on. I do know that the Lakers are interested in Andre Drummond if the Cavs decide to buy out his contract. If they can't find a trade suitor, which I know they're struggling with his big salary right now. Um, an interesting one I read that a handful of teams has contacted Orlando about Vucevic. The teams I saw were the Celtics, the Heat, the Spurs, and the Hornets. But one thing I said, that a trade was unlikely there because Vucevic still has multiple years left on his contract, and he's the centerpiece of their team. So a trade there is unlikely, but I guess nothing's impossible when it comes to this. Then a couple of smaller ones to touch on. Uh, they all deal with Orlando, but the Nuggets have contacted uh, Orlando about Terrence Ross, and the Hornets have contacted Orlando about Evan Fournier. So that's all, just a few names to keep your eye on. Some
Yeah,
headlines.
I think, this is a team we could probably dive into tomorrow as well for that podcast when we're talking about uh, potential Eastern Conference contenders. But yeah, they definitely have some valuable pieces there where, they would definitely fit better on other teams as far as having a hard impact. Right now, their team looks like a team on paper that could be decently. And I think they probably would be more willing to do trades if they had some of their health back, as far as a healthy Markel Fultz and a healthy Jonathan Isaac, who is out for the season as well. But with those players, potentially coming back next season, disregarding any setbacks, that's definitely something that they should look into, is trading off some assets and building with those guys. But then again, like you say, you're banking on health as far as going forward with the future, and or any draft picks that you pick up along the way if you do decide to do these trades. I mean, picking up Vucevic, even though he does have some time left on his contract, I mean, he made the All-Star game, so he's an All-Star caliber player, and he can definitely stretch out the floor, and he's having a great season this year. He's definitely having, I guess you could consider a breakout season, even though he's been in the league for a while. I'm like what I'm seeing from him. He's definitely carrying the load for this team. and I'm sure he wouldn't mind going elsewhere to win, but I don't see him as a player that's particularly pushing to get out of Orlando. But you never know what happens. And like you said, just some follow-ups about potential players like DeMarcus Cousins versus Andre Drummond for the Lakers. Obviously, with Anthony Davis out, they could definitely use another big man down there, preferably somebody who's going to help rebound and defend. Same thing that Anthony Davis gives you, maybe without all the scoring versatility. But hey, you're expecting Anthony Davis to come back at some point. And if you can get one of these players, like I said, the preference is Andre Drummond. If you can get him, you can potentially reserve Anthony Davis even more in a way where you don't have to rush him back for the injury because of, well, we need to, keep where we're at in the standings, or, he's borderline okay, but if we can give him an extra 2 weeks, we would, but, according to the doctors, he's good to play now. You might see a situation where if they are able to pull off Drummond, that maybe Anthony Davis does sit out a whole nother month and maybe gets back when there's 10, 12, a dozen games left in the regular season, just to get him some conditioning for playoffs. And that would be interesting to see. So the impact of the Drummond market, especially for Los Angeles, is a big key right now to what they can do with the health of their players for the future. PJ Tucker was another player that the Lakers were interested in, as well as I have the Nets and the Bucks. So definitely, he's looking at contending teams there as far as, teams where he could win a championship and contribute with his versatility of a 3-and-D type of player, like somebody who can easily knock down the corner three and then just defend. So, not a big shock there of what you would get with him. So there's really no adjusting needed. You just plug him in. He's a plug and play type of guy. Another interesting person, which it doesn't look like he's wanting to go anywhere, is Demar Derozan. So you don't hear much talk about him anymore. But I did see, I think it was on his Twitter, where he, felt disrespected for being snubbed from the All-Star game. Mike Conley got the spot for Devin Booker, and DeMar felt like he should have been there, and he's having a pretty decent season. Even though they have some breakout players potentially there on the Spurs team. Shout out to Murray there, but DeMar's having a pretty good season as far as playing time and health and his numbers. So why not give the guy a nod? He's been an all-star before, but I understand Mike Conley being a first-time all-star, player, and Adam Silver had the choice of selecting who he wanted to fill in that spot. So I think in the right situation, DeMar can get his spot back. Obviously, if he was in the East, I think it'd be a lot easier for him. But another player, since I'm talking about DeMar DeRozan, is his old teammate Kyle Lowry from the Raptors. There was a report I saw where he was being pursued or interested in going to the Sixers. I can't remember which way it is, but that would be an interesting dynamic. I'm not sure what that would be consisted of, because I think this is more so of a trade, as far as him coming out and saying publicly that he feels like he's going to get traded. Not that he's requesting a trade, but that he feels like the organization is going to move on from him. I mean, they do have Fred VanVleet that can easily handle the ball, and then you could just add from whatever you get from a Kyle Lowry trade. So, but for him to go to the Sixers, I mean, he's from Philly, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind playing in the Sixers scheme of things. He's obviously a player who's won a championship, so he's got championship quality DNA, where if he's out there, he can help push these guys through tough times in the playoffs. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, right now I'm sitting on Philly as my team to make it out of the East. So you put him on Philly, and I think they got a great shot. So as is, they're pretty good. But if you're able to add him without losing a huge chunk of your team, whereas you're still keeping hopefully Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, and obviously you still have Ben Simmons and Embiid, that looks like a very powerful team. So I want to mention that tomorrow. But like I said, all of that is speculation, but he really does feel like he's going to get traded. And then, like you said, Victor Oladipo is somebody that the Warriors are particularly looking at. I'm not sure what would be involved in a trade for him. Maybe Kelly Oubre.
Hopefully Kelly Oubre.
Or Andrew Wiggins.
Hopefully Kelly Oubre.
I mean, he has picked it back up. So I mean, he's not the player he was at the beginning of the season. Not to say that the second half didn't reset that again, as far as when they get games going, but he has picked it up defensively. So whether or not the Warriors want to keep it, he does actually look like a trade asset again. So that could be something that they want to pursue down the road, as far as not down the road as far as pursuing the trade, but pursue Oladipo to keep for down the road, especially anything that you can formulate this year that can carry over to next year, hopefully when Klay Thompson returns. And obviously James Wiseman has 1 year under his belt and has improved his game all the way around. So obviously the Warriors look like a team they're just ready to keep pushing for the playoff spot that they're in right now. Whether it be top 4 or bottom 4, they just want to definitely make sure they're in a playoff race. But yeah, and then last but not least on my list, I have Kevin Love. People forget about Kevin Love a lot. He's not really a big name people want to talk about much anymore, ever since basically they won the championship back in Cleveland. He's just had so many injuries, but I think he can still be of value to a team that can use his ability of 3-point shooting. I mean, he's a pretty accurate shooter for a big, and he can gobble up rebounds. So we can't be afraid to let Kevin Love, be an impactful player on a high caliber team, and not just look at him as a washed up all-star, because giving a proper amount of rest, time, and conditioning for health purposes, he can definitely serve a big purpose. So again, I think he might be somebody that is not on the buyout market, but more so of a tradable player by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously they're going younger and they have some pieces to work with. They still have Larry Nance Jr. and Jared Allen, who's erupting for the Cavs. So yeah, I see them obviously dumping off their 2 bigs before the trade deadline. So, the trade deadline's, I think, March 25th this year. So there's still time, but obviously things happen during the All-Star break because teams are stagnant, GMs are calling each other, and teams are looking to see what they can do to start off with some good momentum for the second half of the season, pushing into, the playoffs, because they definitely want to add players as early as they can to get team chemistry flowing. So, but yeah, I definitely want to see Kevin Love play elsewhere so he can get an opportunity. And outside of the Warriors, actually, I'm sorry, I think the Warriors wasn't reported. That was my preference, is for him to go to the Warriors because of their system. I would like to see him there. I think the actual reports is that he has some interest by the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings. So the Kings, borderline playoff team. Dallas should be a playoff team. So I don't think he can go wrong either way, but I think Dallas definitely has more upside for him. But if the Warriors can't get what they want, I mean, why not look at Kevin Love? That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, I don't think there's any real reports of the Warriors being interested in him, but I thought even last year that he would have been a great fit for them if Cleveland decided they had wanted to move on from him last year. But anything else you wanted to add to any of these players as far as the buyout market or the trade market?
Yeah, the only thing I have left to add, you were just talking about the Cavs and you brought up Larry Nance. I did see a report that teams were contacting the Cavs about him, and they said that they are not trading him.
Oh, okay. Wow.
That's
interesting to know that.
looks like he's staying put there in Cleveland.
Okay, so Cleveland definitely has made up their mind who they want to keep and who definitely is available. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a big advantage for Cleveland. Not to be wishy-washy with your team, and to let your guys feel comfortable as far as the ones that are there, making sure they feel like they have a spot on the team and that they're appreciated there. But as far as the other guys, I mean, when you're a veteran like that and you're in that situation, you see younger guys coming up and you kind of see what the team is doing and they're not making the playoffs or not in heavy contention for playoffs, that you kind of know what's possibly going to happen to you. So, for them to have the mindset of possibly being traded, they should just look at it as, well, now is my time to win, especially if you've already gotten paid in your career. That's what I think, between Kevin Love and Andre Drummond, what they would look at. But going on to our next segment here, a review of the first half. Is there anything in particular that you see that can carry over into the second half? So we don't necessarily have to go over every little detail that has happened, but what do you see that could be a potential, I guess, motivation or extra push into the second half as far as a continuation? You see anybody as far as individuals like rookies when it comes to rookie of the year or MVP caliber players that are on the rise, or players that were already mentioned in the top 5 MVP standings? Like, the return of the second half is always different because you have different mindsets for different people, where some people see this as a hard reset of, I didn't perform well in the first half, I had this little break, and I'm coming into the second half of the season as if the season's starting completely over, but I'm conditioned now. Just those different mindsets, and any potential breakout performers that we haven't very necessarily seen yet, as far as they're kind of under the radar guys, but if given the opportunity, might shine, whether or not their team is successful at making the playoffs or just a team that's willing to build, like, for instance, the Detroit Pistons.
All right. So do you just want me to touch on all of them like at once?
I want you to give, your honest thoughts and opinions as far as who you think matches any of those descriptions. So just go in between, just weave in and out with any players. Don't put them necessarily in all in one category. You can go from category to category. So, just throw out a few names and see what we can get through.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I think obviously the players that are going to perform the same way they were, if not probably better, or probably the top MVP race, like the top people pushing for that right now is Joel Embiid, Jokic, LeBron, Luka, Giannis, Dame, Steph Curry. I know right before the All-Star push or the All-Star game, Dame put together some good games, and I believe he had moved up the list on a lot of people's teams, or a lot of people's list for the MVP race. So I just think all those guys, they're gonna, in my opinion, probably continue to perform great and try to better their numbers if possible. I believe.
Any of those particular guys you just mentioned that you think will definitely make a big climb? Like, are there any of them that you see not just being consistent, but actually rising above where they were just playing, like continuing to grow?
I think I think I could see LeBron. I think I could see LeBron improving. Right now, when AD went out before the All-Star break, they went on a little bit of a skid, and they lost quite a few games. And I think they got back on track there. Right before the All-Star break, but that wasn't a very good skid. And without AD and without them having Drummond as of right now, or Cousins, as you said, as of right now, that if they want to keep where they are, the West is it's a very good conference. There's a lot of good teams in the West. And so if they want to, keep where they are, or, not fall any lower, or gain spots, I think some of them players are going to have to step up. And of course, LeBron's not having a terrible year or a bad year or anything like that. He's top 5 in the MVP race. But I could see LeBron, taking over more. I could see him, turning less into like a passer, more of as a scorer, trying to take over, trying to, control the tempo of the game, trying to, take over a game, like LeBron's done so many times in his career. I could see him doing that, especially with Anthony Davis being out, and, him being the guy, not to share that light with AD anymore. So, yeah, I guess, yeah, to that question, out of all those guys, I see all of them, like I said, about staying the same, maybe getting a little better, but the one I could see that would actually you would notice a good uptick in his numbers would be LeBron, trying to, help out more and get his team where they want to be. What about you? You see any? That's a good question. You see anybody?
Yeah, I
like
do
that.
see a couple of people, and that's very nice of you, considering that you're a huge Warriors fan, giving a shout out to LeBron like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've seen this before, and mentioned this before to other people. You don't really want to see a rested LeBron, and that's what happened last year with the whole season, the playoffs, the bubble, everything is because that injury for him, that minor injury, was like kind of a blessing in disguise because of him failing to make the playoffs after making it for ever 8 years in a row. Just gave him a well needed rest in the off season, just that time in between to start the season, and then he helped to get them number one in the West along with Anthony Davis when it came to the playoffs, and then obviously with the pandemic shutting things down and then restarting, another huge period of rest. So I'll say it again, yeah. A rested LeBron is not what you want to see, because that's the only thing the guy really needs at this point in his career. He's always improving his game and working on his body, but bodies and minds need rest. So yeah, I definitely agree with that, with LeBron being one of those guys that could definitely step up when needed. But with Dame, I think he was an interesting guy that he's climbing up on the list. I mean, he's a guy that's not worried about taking the big shots. We've talked about this in the Tavern Geek podcast, and like Zach Hammer had mentioned that with with Damian Lillard, that when it comes to the end game situations, even if he's having an off game, he's ready to knock down those last few shots, and then also just seal the game. So it doesn't matter if he's missed shots or just having an off game. He just has a short memory as far as score, shoot. But yeah, I think he could definitely take a huge boost and improvement, even if McCollum comes back and he's having a great season. It'll just allow Dame to kind of operate more on his terms as far as less pressure from the defense. And if he's already feeling hot with the shooting rhythm and everything, then yeah, I could see him taking on a larger role. I mean, he's been in situations time after time where they're making the playoffs but not getting far enough. But for this sake, we're talking about the second half of the regular season, and why not? Why not showcase all your talent like that? And then Luka, even if he's not in the top three for MVP contention, he's definitely got to have a better second half. I think we start seeing him uptick some, but he's definitely one of the guys to watch out for, because he's just deadly with his scoring, especially that step back three. So watch out for Luka, and just keep an eye on Dallas, because they have some room to grow there, because they're needing to get back into the playoff race for sure.
Yeah,
And
Dame's a good one. I do agree with that. I could see Dame stepping up a little more.
have you been keeping up with anybody as far as most improved player?
Most
Anybody?
improved?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you and I both talked about Boston's team in fantasy when it comes to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But what are your thoughts of Jaylen Brown? I mean, first time All-Star, so that to me shows obviously improvement from the last couple years. But he's also got a bigger role this year because of the usage rate that was Gordon Hayward's has now been distributed elsewhere, and he's taken a big chunk as far as being the second or third option on the team, mostly the second, with Kemba being out for a great period of time to begin the season.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tatum is not Tatum, sorry, Jaylen Brown is probably one of the front runners for most improved player. I think him being a first time All-Star is huge. And I think he's doing great things for the Celtics this year. Like you said, when Tatum was out, he stepped up. Some other players, yeah. I got some other players too. I think when I think of most improved player, players that are, playing really great this year that maybe haven't played on this level before, probably the first name that comes to my mind is Jeremy Grant with Detroit this year. I think
I
Jeremy
had him on
Grant
my list.
he is, I'm not trying to compare him to Tatum, but I feel like he's putting close to Tatum like numbers. I mean, and I
What
guess
did
they
what did I
can
tell
be
you he was a
a
few
poor
months
man's
ago?
a poor man's Tatum.
That's the best way to describe it when you're looking
I
at
can
the
see
numbers.
that. And you're not wrong. He's having a hell of a year. I mean, some other guys, like another first time All Star, Julius Randle.
Right.
He's playing. By far the best season of his career. Uh, this guy, he played. I think he really came into his own last year, but before he got injured this year, I think he was putting up even better numbers. So I had him on my list was Christian Wood. I know you're a big
Oh
Christian
yeah,
Wood fan,
most
but
definitely. I
he was
mean,
going off.
he's definitely a player that even if you just look him up a little bit, he's got an incredible story of his journey to the NBA. But he's finally got his chance uh, to play on a bigger stage or a bigger front as far as with the team carrying over from last year, and then having a starting role and being the go-to guy for Houston. But yeah, I kind of forgot about him in the back of my mind just because of him being out uh,
Yeah,
last month or so. But yeah, when that guy returns, I mean, he's got the top usage rate for the Rockets, and
that's true. And
Cousins is
then now
gone.
with
So
them releasing Cousins, I mean, just more opportunity for him.
if Oladipo goes and you're replacing him with, let's just say Kelly Oubre or something like that, then yeah, I mean the floor is
He's
all
gonna be
his.
getting his rebounds in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just definitely one of those guys to look out for that can definitely take the league and the most improved player. But like I said, what really stands out for me is Jaylen Brown, just because he did make the All-Star team, but that shouldn't be the only contributing factor. And then just touching on what you said with Jeremy Grant, he went to Detroit for a reason, and that was because he wanted to expand his game, and Detroit listened and agreed to let him have his freedom and become the player that he wants himself to be. We know he can knock down shots as a 3-point threat on the perimeter, but those were catch and shoot situations. So now, with him having a whole lot more usage rate and having the ball in his hands virtually whenever he wants it on most occasions, that he's trying to become more than just a shooter and evolve into a scorer. So like we said, poor man's Tatum. That's the best way to describe him. Like, maybe eventually he'll get there. He probably won't ever be the Jason Tatum type of player, but with his usage rate, his numbers do kind of stand out. Um,
Yeah, a couple other guys I have to touch on. This guy was more probably early in the year. I think towards he got kind of close to the All Star break. His numbers went down, but a guy to keep your eye on is Chris Boucher. He was putting up
oh
great
yeah,
numbers. He was putting
yeah.
up great numbers, but I think they've dipped down slightly. And then another one is Shea Gilgeous Alexander. I know you rocking
Oh yeah.
the
Shout
beanie.
out to
You
Shay.
rocking the beanie, but he's
Yes,
having
sir.
a hell of a season too.
Yeah,
So all
I
those guys,
definitely
I
like
think all these
Shay.
guys are doing great.
Shay's got um he's got the whole squad in his hand as far as the keys to the team. So the guy can basically do whatever he wants, and I'm thankful that he got the mentorship last year from Chris Paul, which is what I think we had him for. And not to go into too much detail about the Thunder, but I think Jalen Rose said it best. We are known for being the farm league of the NBA because of all the players that's passed through and how great they've become or were when they play for us. We've just had a lot of great players. Just to name a few All Stars, the obvious: Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, James Harden was drafted by us. We had acquired Oladipo at one point via trade from the Magic. I think, drafted Domantas Sabonis, so another All Star player there. We had Chris Paul, former and current All Star again. So Carmelo Anthony has passed through. You know, we didn't farm him. He was already a legendary player at that point in his career. But yeah, I mean, Shea's got great potential that should definitely carry over into the next year as well. And that brings me to DPOY's Defensive Players of the Year candidates. I mean, for me, I guess the big standout is Rudy Gobert. That's who I think about all the time if it's not Draymond Green. But I saw a report where Simmons was in the conversation, and on some reports, basically leading that category.
Yeah, I probably I agree with you on defensive player of the year. It's hard to go against Gobert on that. Which I think what this would be if he won it this year, what his third
That sounds about right.
I
I
believe.
mean, they
I
call
believe.
him the Stifle Tower for a reason. I mean, you get a nickname for your defense. That's very honorable in the league. So, I mean, I think
Yeah.
if Anthony Davis was healthy, he could have another run at it as well. I mean, it's debatable as far as whether or not he should have got it last year, putting up great numbers. And then, of course, Giannis, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year from last year, is also in talks again of repeating. And
Yeah.
who you got for? Are you want to add something to that, or you want to go into
Yeah.
rookies?
Just. I also got a couple great on ball defenders. I think. I think it'll be hard to beat out Gobert, like you said. But I mean, Ben Simmons, I think is great on defense. A couple of guys people might not think about much is DeJounte Murray and Drew Holiday. I think they're a couple great on ball defenders.
Oh, I
Um,
love DeJounte Murray's on-ball defense. Like I said, he's having a breakout year in general. Put him on the list for breakout players for the second half because he was already breaking out in the first half, and he doesn't have an injury setback right now like he did last year. So put him on the list for sure, and maybe throw in on the B list Derek White because he's returning from the injury and he plays very well alongside DeJounte Murray and can handle the ball. It's almost like a mirroring version of him, maybe without all the athleticism. So yeah,
hmm.
put him on the list for sure too.
All right. What were you getting at before that?
Yeah, rookies.
Rookies.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. So I think I thought of my top 5 rookies and wrote them down. So, first, obviously, I think you're crazy if you pick against this guy, but LaMelo Ball. He's had a great
Obviously.
first half of the year. I think, just here lately, he's really taken off. So I don't really see how he could not be number one rookie right now. At 2, I got Tyrese Halliburton,
And man,
in
you got the same
Sacramento.
two I did. I didn't even do research. I was just like, first two guys I could think of. Boom. I don't even want to write any more on the list right now.
But yeah, he's having an incredible rookie season. Third, I got James Wiseman. Might show a little bias there,
Shout
but
out to James Wiseman. He's
no,
got room
he's
to improve for the
oh
rest of the
yeah,
season,
oh yeah.
like during this season, not even waiting until next year.
And I love seeing the videos of Draymond teaching them throughout the
Yep.
games and giving them
That's
pointers. As I think that's going to be
that's
huge
key
for
for his
his
growth.
growth. Yep.
Yes.
At 4, I got Anthony Edwards. To be honest, I was not big on him at the start of the season, and when the season first started, he wasn't doing much, and I was like, man, don't tell me this guy's gonna be a bust. But I think probably second half of this first half of the season, he really stepped it up. You see some incredible highlight reel dunks from him. I think he's been working on his 3-point shot a little bit. I've seen him knock that down maybe a little more consistently than it was. And then probably my 5th would probably be Emmanuel Quickly. He was having a great first half of the year. I don't want to say unfortunately, but the Knicks got Derrick Rose, and and then they also have Elfrid Payton. So I think that's going to take a big shot to Quickly's playing time and the amount of opportunities he sees. So I think he might digress. I think his numbers he was averaging aren't as high as they were after they got the Rose trade. So I mean, I'm big on Quickly. I think he has a lot of upside, but I think this might hurt his growth, or at least for the time being, while he's, I guess, technically third on that depth chart now. I know they run some where they have him and Derrick Rose on the court together. I think some I saw before the All Star break, but yeah, he was having an amazing year for that trade. So I hope that doesn't hurt his confidence and growth that much. But
I mean, the guy can definitely score. And I was having a conversation with B today that maybe we could have on here in a future time in more detail. But we're just mentioning about rookies this year. And obviously, with COVID last year, it was kind of tough to judge who should get drafted, when, and where. But with the rookies, with some of them not particularly standing out in a bright light, a lot of it's related to where they're ending up at as far as the team that drafts them and then their situation with playing time. I mean, you mentioned the first two guys, maybe the third guy with James Wiseman, but LaMelo Ball and Tyrese Halliburton, uh, those two guys, they basically have been handed the keys to the team in their respective roles, not necessarily being the main guy all the time. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton's playing alongside De'Aaron Fox, Bagley, and Hield. So, he falls somewhere in the mix there, but De'Aaron Fox is probably the clear leader here all the time. And outside of him not playing in some games. And then you look at the Charlotte Hornets with LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier gets a lot of usage, and they have Gordon Hayward for a reason. But, when they put LaMelo Ball out there and then they saw that, okay, what this kid per se can really do out there on the court, and how he makes plays and how he's actually impactful as far as getting the team in a good winning situation on the court. Whereas, same thing with Tyrese Halliburton. Oh man, this guy can really play with De'Aaron Fox. He can play with other guards. He can play with Buddy Hield. You put him out there on the court, and it's like this product looks good on the court, just as well as it does on paper. So anytime you get that added into the mix, that gives you a huge boost of confidence from your team, and then they give you more minutes on top of that, so you're able to show your talents. And then, unfortunately, with I guess James Wiseman would be that has the potential there because of the opening spot at the big man position, but he's having to learn to play in their system, and obviously he's behind the veteran players. But what helps him is that he does have Draymond Green. But then what hurts him is he gets in foul trouble because he's trying to do what he thinks he could do in his role, but you have to get acclimated to the NBA. So part of it might be because he is the big man, where the other two guys we mentioned are both guards that handle the ball and create plays for others, whereas James Wiseman is trying to get a filler for how he can get himself involved in their offense. And obviously it's a lot of buildup for next year. But definitely the top 2 or 3 guys there on that list. And then you look at you had mentioned quickly, and who was the other guy that you had fourth?
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards. So the case with Anthony Edwards, him breaking out here recently is because of the health of Karl Anthony Towns was out, and then he started to come back. But you had D'Angelo Russell missing a handful of games until they basically labeled him as out for injury. So, there you go. You got an opportunity for usage with your team. You get more minutes. Malik Beasley with his suspension now. So, yeah, definitely another player to look out for, to put him on the list for potential breakouts because of, if D'Lo's not ready to come back, and you got 2, maybe 3 weeks of games potentially missed by Malik Beasley, who gets a lot of usage and wanted a bigger role this year on the team.
What is he suspended for? I didn't know he was suspended.
Sorry, I can't remember exactly what it is.
Is it drugs or something?
It's not drugs. I think it's something outside of. It might be. I can't remember. Don't quote me.
Okay. It's something to do with that. Okay.
I had to put it in the comments, but it's something off court issue. It was something that he basically plead guilty to as far as confessing to the NBA. So it's something that happened, I think 2019. Like I said, don't quote me because I just briefly saw it not too long ago, but I didn't keep track of it. It just said that he was, I think 12 or 15 games he was out. But anyway, I mean, he'll be back, but he's just not able to play in the league due to the league standard rules. But yeah, like I said, Anthony Edwards being there with Karl Anthony Towns. But if Karl Anthony Towns continues to need his on again, off again games in between after contracting COVID, which has been a serious issue for some players that have actually gotten it and try to make it back and not being able to perform up to their normal standards, look for Anthony Edwards again to go off. So he's got 2 to 3 great weeks to really showcase why he was picked number 1, and then hopefully carry that momentum with some more usage when all the other players return. So, just another player that not only is for Rookie of the Year candidate, but just for a personal breakout person to watch. But with Emmanuel Quickly, the last guy you had on your list, just his situation with the Knicks, again, is one of those places where you kind of on the bench, and then when you have the nights where people are hurt, you're able to play. Obviously, they traded Dennis Smith Jr., but they did acquire Derrick Rose, but I think Elfrid Payton is hurt at the moment, so he's playing alongside Derrick Rose. But the few games that he did start, he performed very well. And some of it is Tom Thibodeau with his the way he just likes to run his offense, which is particularly not favored towards giving rookies a lot of playing time. That's why you don't see big stat lines from Obi Toppin. He prefers to obviously give it to Julius Randle, followed by, when they had Mitchell Robinson before he got hurt, and then now Nerlens Noel. So, but Emmanuel quickly is making his way through the cracks and getting some usage and playing time in there. And when he does do that, on most occasions he's performing very well. So another great guy to watch in the rookie race, and can easily have breakouts. And then just to throw into this mixture, just Detroit as a whole, when it comes to breakout players, like you mentioned, Jeremy Grant, but we also have to look at players like you got Sadiq Bey, Josh Jackson's trying to get back on track as far as making a name for himself in the league. He was basically considered a bust when he was drafted by the Suns because he didn't perform well there. And then I think his next venture was with the Memphis Grizzlies, and then went to the G League, and then caught a deal with Detroit this year, and he's making himself known with the time that he's been given, and he's been creeping up in minutes. I think he still comes off the bench in most occasions, but he's putting up good numbers. If you play fantasy basketball, somebody to look at with that because of the usage rate. And then also, I can't think of his name. They have another guard outside of Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes was their main guard because he was their first round draft pick, but unfortunately, injuries have put him on the sidelines for the moment. But there's another guard, and I'm sorry that I can't think of his name, that's been getting some playing time for the Pistons, and I believe he's a rookie. So yeah, just watch Detroit as a whole because they got some breakout candidates, with them looking like a team that's just in full rebuild mode, not really trying to push for a playoff race. So just trying to figure out who their identity is as a team and who they can identify as their scorers and potential guys outside of a Jeremy Grant type of player, where he had came there and signed for a reason.
Let me ask you something real quick, B. I think we covered about everything we were going to cover tonight, but I did have a question for you. Mid-season MVP.
Mid-season MVP, like who shines the most right now for me?
Yep. If you're giving up that award, who would have it right now?
Man, you know me. I like to go bold. I don't like to stick with the norm too much. Like that's why I chose Philly over the Nets. And I'm not going Philly here. I don't want to go Embiid. I probably should go Embiid because I am very impressed with his health and longevity of how he's been able to sustain himself compared to the last few years. But I want to say I'm going to give it to Steph Curry because of what he's done for the Warriors. I clearly had it wrong, and I'm admitting it here, that when I was doing the Tavern Geek podcast, I thought that the Warriors would be in a play-in spot. Not necessarily not make the playoffs, but I didn't have them in the playoffs. I just had them in a playoff spot just because of the development of James Wiseman and not pushing Curry and Draymond too much to wait for Klay Thompson to return. And I was just scared of Steph Curry getting hurt, to be honest. I mean, even in fantasy drafts, I was just kind of worried, like, okay, I've drafted Russell Westbrook before on occasions where I felt confident with his return, but with Steph Curry about to turn 32, I was just kind of curious, and also just in realization that there's a great chance that he wouldn't get seriously hurt, but he always had ankle issues in the past that it would just creep up on him again. But with the one shocking thing that I noticed when the season started was his body. He put on muscle, and anytime you can do that in the league and to protect yourself, where you're not actually putting on too much weight as far as impact on the court when you're jumping and everything and landing, but just padding yourself so you can take falls or bumps easier. He looks great, and that I think helped him a lot as far as conditioning and how much he can endure during the game. But yeah, big shout out to the Warriors fans there. That one was for y'all. That was for you.
Appreciate it.
and Sly, as far as I know. You probably had a lot of people that left y'all's bandwagon already. So, but
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sure.
Steph Curry. Yeah, I would give it to him right now, just out of honors. Like I said, I do think there's other people that are deserving, but I just want to give him a quick shout out because I really respect this comeback. Just like any other player that has done it, you know, maybe outside of Kevin Durant. No. I respect Kevin Durant for sure. I never really want to see players get hurt, especially ones of that caliber. But had huge respect for Derrick Rose when he came back from his various injuries. So, but yeah, I mean, I know it wasn't as serious as a Klay Thompson injury, but he's impressed me about how he went about taking care of his body going into the year of his age 32. So, yeah, big props to him.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that answer a lot. I was not expecting that, to be honest. You kind of caught me off guard with that. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I think one thing that's always haunted Steph is I know the thing with him, everybody says that he can't carry a team. He's, in my opinion, hands down the best shooter of all time. He's changed the game uh just by his shot. I mean, it's incredible what he's done, but the one thing people always say about him is he can't carry a team. He always needs the Klay Thompson or the Kevin Durant or a player of that magnitude. And I think this year he's silencing a lot of the haters. I mean, obviously they're not first in the West or anything, but I mean, as of right now, I think they're above 500, and I think they're in solid playoff
And that was the thing for
spot
me.
right now.
What you just mentioned um about proof. That's for me is what helps me to justify in my head is the proof. Like you said, we've seen him perform with other all stars. Even though Draymond Green's still here, and he's playing at a high level again with his assist numbers and everything he's contributing. But it's different when you don't have Clay and definitely Durant by your side, and to be able to do this, and then having not really your true big because your true big is a rookie and he's not up to par yet as far as where you need him for your system. So that shows that between the coaching and your other sidekick guy, how much you're affecting the team and where you're positioning your team at the moment. I mean, they're higher than Denver Nuggets right
now. Yeah.
And we know Jokic is top 3, maybe number 2 right now in the MVP race. And then you have the likes of Jamal Murray, who another breakout candidate, because he is looking like he's starting to pick back up like he was in the bubble. Maybe not quite to that standard yet, but we're seeing a little bit more consistency. And then you have Michael Porter Jr., who not really a breakout right now, but another breakout for me to watch out for in the second half. Like I value his talent on a high level as far as what he can contribute and then how he can knock down the three. But yeah, we'll cover that on Wednesday's podcast when we talk about the Western Conference as a whole and their team as a whole. But yeah, like anytime you have guys like that, you're expecting them to be in a higher situation. But when you become an underdog, and that's when you kind of have to prove people wrong. Like, okay, let's see what you do without the huge supporting cast. And yeah, Steph Curry has proven me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they still have, good guys, Wiggins and Oubre sometimes, and like you said, Draymond and Wiseman when he's healthy. They still have a good lineup, but without this
For sure.
actual all stars, I wouldn't really consider Draymond an all star at least this year. I mean, I know his assist numbers are outstanding, but he's not what he was when he was an all star in my opinion. But
He
yeah,
hasn't
like
been
I
an
was,
all-star within the last 3 years, so we won't count it as him being an
but
all-star right now.
yeah, but I mean, like I said, it's just been the flaw with Curry. Everybody says he couldn't carry a team, and this year he's showing that he can. He like I said, they're not first in the West or anything, but he's doing what he needs to do, and I think it'll be tough come playoff time when you play LeBron and AD, or you play Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Teams like I said, the West is stacked, but I mean, just getting to the playoffs. I mean, I always have high expectations for my team. But yeah, I am impressed. I am impressed with Curry, but I can't pick him for my midseason MVP. I like that pick. It's extremely tempting for me. Show a little biased, but I think I'm just gonna stick with the not bold prediction and go with Joel Embiid. I believe he's second in scoring right now. I think just behind Bradley Beal. I think he's averaging just over a little over 30 points a game. I think he's averaging 11, 11 point something rebounds per game. You know, he's really good on defense too. But I saw a couple stats that when I was thinking about who my MVP was, that really drew me to him. It really made did it for me. So Joel Embiid this season has 5 40-point, 10 rebound games. So just the season so far, he has 5 of those. So far this season, everybody else combined in the league has 5. So Embiid just himself has 5 40-point, 10 rebound games, and everyone else combined in the league has 5. So that was extremely impressive to me. And then another thing, I do when I think of an MVP, I think of how good a player is, but then I also think of how much does that player mean to his team. So let's say, for instance, Clay was playing this year, and let's say Curry was putting up 35 points per game, clearly leading the league in scoring, all this stuff. Let's say he gets hurt. Let's say Klay Thompson takes over as a leader and they're still winning games. They might, lose a couple, but you're like, wow, they're not as bad without Curry as, one would have thought. So I like to think about that too. How much do you mean to your team? And there's a stat here. The Sixers are 23-7 this year with Joel Embiid in the starting lineup and playing. And he's only missed 6 games this year, but they are 1-5 without him. So, I know they still have Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, stuff, those kind of people, Dwight Howard. But that just shows, I know it's not, they're not even in numbers or anything, but that just shows how big of a difference he is when he's not on the floor, when he's not on that court. I just think they're a totally different team. And so I'm going to go with Embiid.
I would have to agree with this impact because of just the previous years when he hasn't been healthy. And I had them making it out of the East last year. I just thought that they had the talent of what it took. And then obviously the year before, I didn't have them making it out the East that year, but I had them very high up when they had Jimmy Butler there. But yeah, a lot of it just boils down to health with the 76ers. I mean, but this is clearly what we see, what we've been missing from the Sixers over the last several years. This is Joel Embiid. This is why they drafted him. This is what they believed in, why they never traded or broke up Embiid and Simmons, is because this is the type of product you need on the floor. Now, granted, I also want to give props to Doc Rivers, because it's Doc Rivers. He just knows how to coach, and he knows how to coach winning basketball and how to coach big talents. But yeah, this is just Joel Embiid with his talent and his footwork, and he's healthy. Another shocker for me. Like, I don't know what happened with COVID. Like, some of these players just they must have got their shots early.
That's what it's looking like. But yeah.
Yeah, this is a great session of predictions of what we think are going to happen from an individual standpoint into the second half of the season before playoffs are involved. And like I said, I think going from here, we can evaluate things on a bigger scale. So tomorrow's podcast, we'll plan on doing the Eastern Conference, not necessarily complete breakdown, but just a breakdown of who we think might be the top 4 and bottom 4, and then potentially some play-in spots for the East when it comes to the end of the regular season. We can compare to where people are standing now as far as teams, and then we'll follow that up with the next podcast on Wednesday, hopefully, where we talk about the Western Conference and do the same thing there. So we got a great start here where we're able to talk about the players as an individual. Now let's just put them back in their respective teams and then compare the impact of their team against the other teams when we return. So I would like to thank everybody for coming out to the podcast and listening to us and watching us on YouTube. And if you just want to listen to the podcast itself, audio only, you can find us on anchor.fm alongside some other podcasts. I think Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, just to name a few. But definitely, yeah, if you're on YouTube, continue to follow our videos. Sometimes we put a little bit extra content on there. I have a few solo vids that I've done, and hopefully we'll do some more. But yeah, definitely the podcast. Check us out where you can. And Hugh, you want to say anything to the people?
No, I do. Everybody watching this video is going to notice that I do not have on an NBA jersey today. I have on a Dak Prescott jersey today. It's because anybody who knows anything about football knows that after about 2 years of negotiations, that this evening, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys agreed on a 4-year, $160 million contract with $126 million guaranteed. So we got our guy, and I could not be happier. And I just wanted to give the Cowboys organization and Dak Prescott a little shout out and say, let's go win a Super Bowl this next year. Let's make it all worth it.
All right, there y'all heard it first from one of the biggest Cowboy fans I know. I don't want to shout them out myself, so I'm not going to go into that. Let's just see
what you rocking.
Let's just see what Russell Wilson decides to do. Yeah, I got an OKC. I guess you can call it a throwback 0, so you know who it is. I mean, upstanding guy for the organization. Self-explanatory. But yeah, thank y'all for kicking it in the second half with us tonight. We can't wait to see you again. And hopefully tomorrow we'll have a special guest with us, along with bringing back Cousin Fred. Shout out to Cuz. He was going to be on with us tonight, but hopefully he'll be on with us in the next couple of episodes. Thanks, everybody. Peace and love.